I used to think trust disappeared all at once. I was wrong. It fades quietly, hidden inside late-night excuses, unread messages, and forced smiles that never quite reach someone's eyes. My wife, Emily, had been coming home later from work almost every night for nearly 3 months. Every explanation sounded reasonable on its own. An emergency meeting, a demanding client, a co-worker who needed help. I wanted to believe every word because I loved her. But deep inside, a small voice kept whispering that something wasn't right. The night everything changed again like every other ordinary Tuesday, until one simple discovery shattered every excuse she had ever given me forever. When Emily finally walked to the front door that evening, it was almost 11 o'clock. She looked exhausted, but something about her expression felt rehearsed, like she had practiced looking tired in the mirror before coming home. She kissed my cheek, dropped her purse onto the kitchen counter, and rushed upstairs to take a shower without even asking how my day had gone. The sound of running water echoed through the house while I stood alone in the silent kitchen, staring at the purse she had left behind. I had never searched through her belongings before. I never believed I would become that kind of husband. But that night, curiosity defeated trust. My hands trembled as I slowly unzipped the purse. I wasn't looking for proof of betrayal. I was hoping to prove myself wrong. Inside were the usual things: her wallet, makeup, receipts, a notebook, and car keys. Then, tucked into a small side pocket, I found a sealed box of condoms. We had been trying to have a baby for almost a year, and we hadn't used condoms in a very long time. My heart seemed to stop beating. Every excuse she had ever given me suddenly replayed inside my head, but now every memory carried a completely different meaning. I carefully placed everything back exactly where I had found it before she came downstairs. Emily smiled casually during dinner, as if nothing had happened. She talked about deadlines, difficult customers, and office politics, while I silently watched every movement, wondering how long she had been lying to me. I wanted to confront her immediately, but anger rarely reveals the full truth. Instead, I asked one simple question: which client kept you so late tonight? She answered without hesitation, giving me the name of a company she claimed had demanded emergency revisions. Her confidence almost convinced me until I remembered something important. My cousin worked for that exact company. Without saying another word, I decided to wait until morning before making any accusations. The next morning, I called my cousin during my lunch break. After a few casual questions, I mentioned the company Emily claimed had kept her working late. There was a long pause before he answered. "That's strange," she said. "Our project with her office was completed almost 3 weeks ago. We haven't had a meeting with them since." My stomach tightened. That single sentence confirmed what my instincts had been trying to tell me for months. I didn't confront Emily that evening. Instead, I quietly hired a licensed private investigator. If my marriage was truly falling apart, I wanted facts, not assumptions. Over the next week, I acted like nothing had changed. I kissed Emily goodbye every morning, wished her a good day, and even laughed at her jokes during dinner. Meanwhile, the investigator followed her after work. Every evening, I waited anxiously for updates, hoping each report would somehow clear her name. But the opposite happened. Emily wasn't staying late at the office. She was leaving work on time, driving across town, and meeting the same man several nights a week. They spent hours together at restaurants, parks, and a luxury apartment building. The investigator never crossed legal boundaries, but the pattern alone spoke louder than any confession ever could. Then came the report that changed everything. Along with a detailed timeline were photographs. Emily and the man were holding hands outside the apartment building. In another photo, he wrapped his arm around her shoulders while she smiled the way she used to smile at me. The final image showed them entering the building together, carrying an overnight bag. I sat alone in my office, staring at those pictures until the sun disappeared behind the skyline. My hands shook with heartbreak, but for the first time in weeks, my mind felt strangely calm. The condoms in her purse were no longer a mystery. They were part of life she had carefully hidden from me. I contacted a divorce attorney the very next morning and quietly followed every piece of legal advice. I made copies of financial records, secured my personal savings, and gathered every document I might need. I didn't seek revenge, and I didn't want a dramatic confrontation. I simply refused to let deception control another day of my life. The hardest part wasn't preparing for the divorce. It was pretending everything was normal while waiting for the right moment. Every smile Emily gave me felt like another lie, and every "I love you" sounded emptier than the last. A week later, Emily came home late again with the same tired expression and another carefully rehearsed excuse. This time, I didn't argue. I placed a small envelope on the dining table and quietly asked her to sit down. She opened it with a confused smile that vanished within seconds. Inside were the divorce papers, along with copies of the investigator's photographs. Her face turned pale. She tried to explain, then apologize, then blame stress, loneliness, and work pressure. But none of those excuses could erase the choices she had made. I looked at her calmly and said, "I found the condoms before I found the truth. The truth just confirmed what my heart already knew." Emily broke down in tears, insisting she had made a terrible mistake and begging for another chance. Months earlier, I would have done anything to save our marriage. But trust, once destroyed, is almost impossible to rebuild. I quietly stood, picked up my keys, and walked toward the door. Before leaving, I turned back one final time. "You didn't lose me because I found a box in your purse," I said. "You lost me because every lie you told made that discovery believable." As I stepped into the cool night air, I realized something unexpected. My marriage had ended, but my self-respect had finally returned. Sometimes the most painful ending becomes the beginning of a far better life. The divorce process moved faster than either of us expected. Emily continued calling and texting for weeks, insisting she wanted to explain everything properly. At first, I ignored every message. Eventually, I agreed to meet her one last time, not because I was considering reconciliation, but because I wanted closure. We met at the same quiet coffee shop where we had celebrated our engagement years earlier. She looked exhausted, her confidence replaced by regret. Through tears, she admitted the affair had started as an emotional escape from the pressure she felt at work and at home. She claimed she had convinced herself she could end it before I ever found out. Instead, every lie only pulled her deeper into a life she could no longer control. I listened without interrupting, but something inside me had already changed. I realized I wasn't searching for more answers anymore. I already had the truth I needed. When she finished speaking, I simply wished her well and stood to leave. Months later, the divorce was finalized, and I moved into a smaller apartment across town. It wasn't a house I had dreamed of raising a family in, but it became a place where I could finally sleep without wondering if another lie was waiting behind the front door. Looking back, I no longer remember the box of condoms as the moment my marriage ended. I remember it as the moment I stopped ignoring the truth. Sometimes the hardest discoveries don't destroy your life. They save you from living a lie forever.